We're a community where news and information is created by our team of journalists. We ask tough questions and we simplify the science so that anyone can understand. We don't only cover disease, but delve into the latest research on what it takes to keep our brains healthy. Aside from the experts, we also interview people diagnosed with dementia. Being Patient Perspectives looks at that first-person perspective of people living with dementia.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Being Patient's live talk. This is Nicholas Chan, reporter with Being Patient. And today we'll be speaking with Patti LaFleur, who is a caregiver for her mother, Linda LaTurner. And Linda was diagnosed with dementia at the age of 66 in 2015. So Patti, thank you so much for joining us to speak about, your experience so far.
Thanks for having me.
So Patti, I want to ask you, tell us a little bit about your mother, Linda, and growing up, what was she like as a mother?
So my mom is wonderful. My mom is one of those people that was always made to be a mom. She was loving and kind and supportive. I mean, wonderful. I was actually adopted. So she adopted both me and my sister because she was unable to have kids. And I just truly feel like we were meant to be. Like it was somehow, some way it was meant to be that she was my mom. All of the positive qualities that I have, I got from her 100%. She's just always supportive and always making sure that we were loved and cared for. I never doubted that she loved me and she was going to support anything that I was into or interested in. She was just my biggest cheerleader.
Right. And I'm sure so many of the qualities of your mom that you just described, her love and her care, so much of those qualities that you have to use now as a caregiver for your mother now, right?
Totally. A lot of people are like, oh, how are you so patient? Or how are you so kind? And I'm like, I had the best role model. I just apply what she applied for me, what she thought was great caregiving for me as a child. I just get to give it back 100%. It's such an opportunity.
Right. So, Patti, let's go back in time a little bit and speak about, some of the early symptoms of dementia for your mother. Can you tell us a little bit about, first, like, what was your situation like? Because, you were a kindergarten teacher, you were juggling a lot of different things in your life. Run us through a little bit about, those circumstances.
Yeah. So at the time of her diagnosis, I was teaching kindergarten full time. I was also going to the University of Washington to get my master's in instructional leadership. And I was in the middle of starting to plan my wedding. My husband and I at the time, my boyfriend and I had just gotten engaged. And so I was starting wedding planning process. So I had a lot of things going on. And we discovered that my mom had dementia because she's also a type 1 diabetic, and she was really struggling with being able to manage her blood sugar. She had always done a beautiful job in caring for that. And she was missing insulin doses, or she was struggling counting carbs. So we noticed that initially. And then there were other things that kind of started to pop up. She was withdrawing from social situations. She was experiencing more sadness or isolation, feeling like she wasn't able to engage or be involved in conversations in the same way. And she also had always paid all the bills. She was a stay-at-home mom. She ran the household beautifully, and she started to miss paying bills. And so we were getting late notices. So things that were not typical behaviors for my mom were just kind of popping up. So then my dad and my mom went to her primary care physician. And then that is when she got the diagnosis. Well, initially it was, mild cognitive impairment, and then followed up with an MRI where we discovered that she had some plaques or different, parts of her brain were losing some of their functioning in a bunch of different areas. So that's when she got the diagnosis of mixed dementia. And I think that was closer to like 2016, right around the time I got engaged.
Got it. And you know, initially it was your father who helped who was your father your mom was living with your dad, and your dad was caring for her, and then ultimately your dad was also diagnosed with dementia in 2020. What was that like for you? I mean, that must have been so tough to have, you know, both parents living with dementia.
Yeah, it was very challenging. You know, at first, my mom didn't need a ton of support when my dad was caring for her. Just some support with her insulin, some support with, you know, day-to-day functioning. But by the time that I really stepped in and was helping my parents in their house, and then ultimately her moving in with me, she was requiring a lot more help with day-to-day tasks, with going to the bathroom and showering and all of those things. And so it was hard because my dad was exhibiting a lot of like he was trying to self-preserve, right? He was trying to not lose, you know, like not lose his independence as well, because he had watched his wife go through this. And so he was doing a lot of things that made it appear that he was fine. And as I was spending more time with both of them, but specifically even with him, I noticed that there were other things going on that weren't just normal, typical part of aging. And so, yeah, I mean, it is hard. My dad, before he passed last year, he was still very much in the early stages. So he was living in an assisted living facility, but he was independent in a lot of ways. So we were still able to have lots of conversations. He was still able to use the phone and even do video calls. So he was definitely had not progressed as far in his dementia, but still they both required me to be handling everything: finances, doctor's appointment, driving, errands. I mean, the list goes on, because they both had lost those pieces of independence.
Right. And it was only recently that you quit being a kindergarten teacher. Yeah, that must have been, again, like very challenging for you to balance being, you know, a kindergarten teacher and taking care of both of your parents, right?
Definitely. It was crazy. There was a lot. It was just a lot. And I mean, ultimately, it's why I decided not to continue with teaching, because I didn't feel like I could give 100% to my parents or 100% to the kids in my classroom. And so I was giving about 75% to both of them. And that just didn't feel fair to anyone. And even then, my only break was working, right? And working is not, I mean, working around 25-year-olds is not a break. I mean, it's fun, but it's not a break. So balancing all of those things, this last school year, I just decided that I needed to just focus on being the full-time care partner for my mom. And she requires 24/7 care. So I'm able to now give her 100%.
Right. And I read a blog that you wrote. You actually prefer the term care partner over caregiver. You know, why is that?
Yeah, I just fully believe that it's a partnership. This is not just a one-way street, right? I'm not just giving and giving and giving and giving to my mom. It's mutual. There are some days where I am giving a lot more, but she is constantly giving back. And to me, I am a big believer in intentionality in language. And I think that by using a term like care partner and being really intentional with how I define our relationship, it's able to help me find the joy and find the ways that she is giving back to me. Every day there's reciprocation, even if it's a smile or holding my hand, or even more internal for me. Like, this is definitely a partnership and not something that I'm just doing to her. We're equal in this partnership.
Right. It's a two-way street, right? You give and your mom gives as well, right?
Yeah, totally. And we just, yeah, it would, if if it was just me or if it was just her, there wouldn't be a partnership, but there's both of us and we're working together to live both of our best lives.
Got it. And, as I mentioned, before this interview, I really wanted to talk to you about some of the points you made in a blog post for the Alzheimer's Association. And one of the points that you made was the importance of, doing your best to find joy. Tell us a little bit about, how you do your best to find joy in caregiving in your daily life, and whether you have any advice for others who are along a similar path.
Yeah, well, we just find joy every day. Every day there's something to celebrate. Every day there's something to be excited about. We have fun every day. We laugh every day. We dance. I mean, we do art together. We bake together. It's just, what is life without joy? I feel like there's so much stigma around the words like dementia and Alzheimer's, as this is a death sentence, or your life is over, or it's just terrible and miserable. And yeah, it's hard. I'm never going to say that I want everyone to have dementia, right? Like, that's not the case. But when you are living with it, you can choose to be negative and choose to find all of the things that are hard about it, or you can find the moments of joy. And we do everything. Like, we do everything together. I take her on vacation. I don't let dementia be the thing that stops us from having fun. And that's why I'm constantly posting about it and talking about it and sharing videos and just really raising awareness, because there is so much joy in it. We get to laugh together. It's a different relationship, 100%, but it is still a positive relationship. So my biggest advice to other caregivers, care partners, is find things that you can do together, do activities together. And it's not about the activity itself, it's about the experience. And just don't hold too tight to some product or some deadline or some sort of, it has to look a certain way, but just experience things together. Think of the things that you loved about your loved one before, or you did with your loved one before, and find a way to still do those together. Because I can tell you that we do art all the time, and 90% of the time I'm like, okay, we're going to stick this here. And she just puts it anywhere, right? Or she'll like sing to the little piece. Like, if I got so caught up in the fact that it needed to be a certain way, then it would be hard to find joy. But if you just go with it, you will laugh and laugh and laugh.
And for instance, you took your mom on a trip to Disneyland too, right?
Yeah, we just went to Disneyland. I mean, it didn't end up super great because she ended up getting sick, but that could have happened even before dementia, right? We had a great 3 days.
Right. And then your second point is to find time for yourself. And this is, this advice is one that so many, experts and caregivers say it's important to find time for yourself. But in practice, it can be so hard to do. Yeah. So how about for yourself? How do you find time for yourself to, replenish, and what's your advice and for other people? Yeah.
I think that also in using the term partner, the care partner, it helps me to remember that I am also a partner. I am also part of this care partnership. It's not just my mom, it's me too. And so I just remember that I can't show up as my best self for her if I'm not showing up, if I don't feel my best. So it's, for me, one of the biggest things is like working out or making time for exercise. So I take a look at our schedule and I think, like, what is a time of day when she can keep sleeping or she can doing that? So making some small shifts in your day or in your schedule to make time for yourself. I'm just a very scheduled person. And so we follow a routine every day. So that way, in that routine, I build in time for myself. She also, she goes to bed at the same time. So then when she goes to bed, I have an hour to myself. I can drink a glass of wine, or I can do a journal, or I can watch a TV show, or I can walk on the treadmill, or I can call a friend. Like, I just make sure that there are times throughout the day that are just for me. I give so much of my day to her, which is fine, but I also need to make sure I make time for me. And another thing that I do that I've started doing recently, like about 6 months ago, is I found a facility in the area that's a memory care facility. And probably once a month or once every couple months, she goes there for a weekend, and it just gives me time. It gives me the whole weekend. We did have caregivers coming into the home, and they were wonderful, but I found when they were coming into the home, then I was like, either had to be out of the home so that I'd have a break, or I was in the home and then I'm talking to them. So it's not really a break. I mean, it's wonderful, but it wasn't helpful for me. So she goes away for a weekend. She gets a break from me. I get a break. And I just really prioritize those weekends to spend time with my friends, spend time with my husband. If I want to go and do something that I don't necessarily want mom to go with me, like, that's when I go and do those things. I make myself as important as a partner in this partnership as she is.
Right. And, one former caregiver told me that, on the topic of self-care for caregivers, that it can be something as simple as, after a tough day of, looking after your loved one. It could be something as simple as, taking a moment for yourself and taking a deep breath. And that can be a form of self-care too, right? Something as simple.
And knowing when to walk away, right? Like, there comes a time when you just need to walk away and take a break, and that is okay and human. I'm not like this 1,000% of the day, right? I mean, I try to approach her from a positive approach always, because I just think, how do I want people to talk to me? That's how I just talk to people, though, because I'm like, how would I want someone to talk to me? But also recognizing that sometimes it's hard, and it's me really hard, like taking a shower, and I need to just step away for a minute and have some me time.
And then your third point in the blog is to seek a support system. Again, this is one that we often hear, and I was wondering, what are some of the concrete steps that you've taken in like your own life that have really helped you build a support system around both yourself and your mother?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple things I would say for that. One is kind of like the people in your life, like your friends and your family that are currently already in your life, is just communicating to them what you're going through. I think that one of the biggest pieces for me is that all of my friends are completely aware of what I'm going through. I talk to them about my mom. They spend time with me and my mom. I'm very open on, like, I may make a plan with you and it may include my mom, and things can come up, and they understand that because I've been forthright in my communication and in my needs. Like, they'll often be like, how can I help you? And I'm like, you can help me by bringing me a cup of coffee today. I'm having a rough day. Like, just really being transparent in what my needs are has really helped my friends who don't understand what I'm going through, even though they're the most amazing friends and I have the most amazing husband, but it's not their mom. They're not living this, so they don't necessarily understand it, which is fine. So just really being transparent in what I need and what I'm going through. And then I also would say that there are a lot of other people, going through the same thing. There's like a crazy amount. They say, I think the new statistic is 6 million people living with dementia and Alzheimer's, I think is what I saw. But so there's a lot of people that have loved ones that they're caring for, or they know, and there are a lot of wonderful support systems online. I started sharing my journey on Instagram, not even intentionally, and I just started connecting with people that were going through the same thing. I had attended some support groups, which were lovely and wonderful, but they were not in their 30s going through the same thing. And the people that I have met through online support systems, online resources, more millennial type caregiving resources have been some of the best connections that I've made. They get it. We talk daily. I have something coming up, I've been contemplating when is it time for hospice, and I have friends that I have connected with, so I can ask them and they can share their experiences. And I think even if you find one person through an Alzheimer's Association support group or any other sort of support group, I think if you can find one other person that you can connect with that understands it, I think that goes a long way in helping you. It just, sometimes it's nice to know you're not alone, right? I felt like, wow, does anyone else know what's going on? Like, has anyone else experienced this? And yes, a lot of people have experienced it. And sometimes they're just the best people to connect with because they get it.
Right. And you yourself have actually formed a Facebook online support group too, right?
Yeah, I just have a little one. It's I have a little Facebook group for young caregivers because I noticed that there just wasn't a lot of like support groups that were geared just to people that were in my age range. And I think that there are a lot of different difficulties that come with being a spousal caregiver or being a younger caregiver or any of the caring for a parent, caring for a grandparent, caring for mom, caring for dad. So I just was like, I don't see any group on Facebook that I really feel like I identify with. So I just created one.
And what's the name of the group's name?
Young caregivers of loved ones with dementia.
Got it. And for anyone who's interested, they can look into it, right?
Yep, they can totally join.
And
the more the merrier.
And Patti, is there anything else, last few thoughts that you'd like to add in terms of advice for caregivers that we haven't talked about yet?
I would just say, for me, the biggest thing is just remembering that you're a part of the partnership. I just can't reiterate that enough. If that means, seeking therapy or professional help or calling the Alzheimer's Association or whatever that looks like, just don't lose yourself. It's so easy. I'm going to be fully transparent. I started caring for my mom. COVID hit, we were all isolated, right? But my mom has dementia and diabetes and is in her 70s. Like we shut down, because I was too afraid that something was going to happen to her. So I didn't take a break, besides working, I didn't take a break. And it was wonderful and I would do it again, but I felt really lost. I didn't really know. I knew who teacher Patti was and caregiver Patti was, and I didn't know who Patti was anymore. And it happened so quickly. So, my biggest advice is just remembering that you're also important and valued, and your loved one, although they might not be able to say it, would want you to be valuing yourself as well.
Well, thank you so much, Patti, for sharing your insights and your story. And for our audience, if you miss any of this live talk, we'll have a recording on our YouTube channel as well as a transcript on our website. And if you haven't signed up to our newsletter yet, don't forget to sign up on our website. Thank you again, Patti. Bye.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. For more information on upcoming interviews, don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at beingpatient.com. That's beingpatient.com. And send us any feedback you may have, whether it's someone you want us to interview or any comment about our podcast series. You can do so by emailing info@beingpatient.com. Thanks for listening, everyone. I'm Deborah Kahn.